the fungus creates that mycotoxin that creates the brain fog. It actually creates a chemical that drives the host to consume more sugar so that the fungus is fed. 80% of neurotransmitters are created in the gut. When you get the sugar out of your diet, that's going to make a big difference right there, because now you're starting to get rid of the yeast. You're starting to starve them.
Welcome to Salus Health Topics. In today's talk with Dr. Troy Giles, we focus on the subject of ADHD and mood disorders, how dietary factors and fungal overload can negatively impact our cognitive function. So I think it's pertinent for us to cover basic mental health, which seems to have a lot of connectivity to dietary sort of things. So we can think about mood disorders, depression, ADHD is a very interesting subject matter. So let's have a bit of a conversation about that.
You bet. So ADHD, I'm kind of a poster child, if you will, for this, because I have ADHD, ADD. And I have to constantly focus my brain. I've got to focus it all the time. But it's gotten better since I've worked in my microbiome. But when I was little, I had dyslexia as well. I was the dumb kid in the class. It took me forever to get through the test. Mm-hmm. The kids would go out to recess and come back in after the test, and I would still be working on the test, have to go out into the hallway to finish. Mm-hmm. So that's what I worked with. But my father was a drug salesman for a nice, reputable company. He would go in and talk to the doctors, detail them on the use of antibiotics and so forth, and on all kinds of different medications. But we had erythromycin in our cupboard, and if I'd get a little bit sick, he'd say, "Here, take some of this." But then I started to say, well, if I had a little sore throat because maybe I had some ice cream the night before, the throat was a little bit sore, I'd run and grab some erythromycin and take it 2 or 3, and then I was done. That's not how you take an antibiotic. But that created within me fungus. And that fungus can create mycotoxin. Mycotoxins are very neurotoxic. They create brain fog. They create just the inability to really focus. And they also create a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde concept.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the mood swings that are
all over the place, and creates hungry and angry. Because you're looking for your next shot of a carbohydrate, sugar, to feed the yeast and fungus. It actually creates a chemical that drives the host to consume more sugar so that the fungus is fed.
So we're talking about the elements, negative elements in the digestive tract, actually modifying the cravings that somebody has so it feeds itself. And if you comply with those particular cravings, you can end up with all sorts of negative side effects in your thought process, your mood. So, just statistically speaking, I wanted to kind of mention that there's 1 in 10 North Americans that are on some kind of prescription for depression or mood disorders, 10% of the population. Yeah. And when we talk about something like ADHD, here's a stat that comes out of the book Brainmaker, which is a great book. 11% of the children aged 4 to 17 are diagnosed as having ADHD, and a staggering 2/3 are on a prescription medication for these. Yeah. And one that I thought was just horrible was that 10,000 American toddlers between 2 and 3 years old are now being medicated for ADHD.
How do you determine if a toddler has ADD?
Right.
This kid's too interested in things, too interested in his toys, he crawls too fast. What are you talking about?
Well, that's a total tragedy. And something else that came out of this was that the kids who were diagnosed with ADD were 3 times more likely to have constipation issues, and 67% more likely to have some kind of incontinence or bowel problems. So yeah, maybe let's talk about digestive.
Think about that. Think about the constipation issue because of the offending organisms, the fungus, the parasite, the bacteria, whatever is in the gut. Generally speaking, these kids have started out with some kind of an earache. They're given antibiotics. So they're being fed cow's milk as they're in their bottle before they go to bed. Here, put this cow's milk in your body, go to sleep. Now they've got a great agar. Agar is what is a medium to grow bacteria. So a little petri dish has agar in it.
Okay.
So this now is in through their throat, their eustachian tube. They're laying down, sucking on their bottle. They go to sleep with milk in their system. We're the only people, the only species that continues to drink milk after we're weaned.
Right.
Besides from another species.
Right.
That chews its cud and eats on a fence post.
When we deal with things like ADHD, individuals like children that were born by C-section are also more likely to develop those kind of symptoms. And that's obviously in relation to the microbiome component, because there's something about traveling down the vaginal canal during the birthing process that sets up the microbiome. And there's also a correlation related to breastfeeding for a period of time, where the children who are breastfed, as opposed to taking something else as a food source, they are also, the breastfed children are less likely to develop ADHD later on.
So you think about it, I mean, just the process of coming out of the sac, the sac of waters, descending through the vaginal canal. There's going to be bacteria there. You're getting that. You're starting with the microbiome in your mouth at that point. Ingesting that starts the process of movement and going. Breastfed, of course, they've got the antibiotic type of nature of the breast milk. They've got monolarin. Monolarin is found in breast milk and in coconut oil derivative, which is very antibacterial. So that's all part of that microbiome being fed, breastfed. So you get the mothers that are either unable to breastfeed or just decide not to breastfeed, and now we're feeding them formula that's just trash. It just one of the other doctors in my class did her research was on the formula fed babies and what formula was. It was just so difficult to absorb. So the ADD, then let's go back to that concept of with the fungus, creates that mycotoxin that creates the brain fog. It creates literally so that the guy can't focus, and now he's being charged with sugar. And now we feed him a high sugar cereal before he goes to school.
Sure.
And now he's going to sit there and try to sit and focus. And that fungus, literally, those toxins produced by the fungus, just wire him up. And now he's looking for his next hit of sugar. So they literally, in the presence of fungus, sugar turns into alcohol. So they literally are not drunk, but in essence, high, mood altered because of the sugar in the presence of fungus. Have you ever made bread, leavened bread? You take water, warm water, you put sugar in it, and then you put your yeast in it, and you spin it around, shake it up, and let it sit there for a minute, and all of a sudden it starts to froth. That yeast froths up so it's outside of the bowl. You pour that then into your bread.
So this is part of what's going on in the internal digestive process, creating all sorts of inflammation, which is therefore creating all sorts of problems. And I think we touched on it before. The gut is responsible for creating some of the neurotransmitters, and now those aren't properly being created as well.
80% of neurotransmitters are created in the gut by the microbiome.
Well, and let's roll this back for a little bit. Obviously there's so much stuff that we can't cover in short segments like this. You did cover some ways to go after ADHD in your book, the 25 Conditions or More in Natural Healing, which is available on your website as well as the Salus Defense website and our Facebook page. So what are some of the strategies that an adult who has some of these symptoms can use, as well as the adult who's playing a role of parent and seeing mood disorders and depression and whatnot? Get
through the first 2 weeks of taking sugar out of your diet. It's hard.
Well, it's an addiction. It's an absolute addiction.
We are addicted to sugar. When you get the sugar out of your diet, that's going to make a big difference right there, because you're starting to get rid of the yeast. You're starting to starve them. Take the silver. The structured silver has the ability to remove electrons out of the cell walls of fungus, killing them, popping them like a water balloon. So you can get rid of the fungus out of your gut through taking the structured silver. Different than diflucan. Diflucan is a chemical. So if this is my hand This would be the body of the fungus. Okay. This would be pseudopods that would penetrate down into the colon.
Okay.
Diflucan will kill what it's exposed to, the surface. But these that are down inside the tissue, down deeper, basically these still live.
And they'll repopulate.
And it's going to come right up, and away you go again.
Yeah.
So I find that diflucan over the years seems to chase it deeper into the tissue. You stop taking the diflucan, it just comes right back up. But if you're taking an ongoing slow amount, a tablespoon in the morning, a tablespoon in the evening, of the Salus structured silver, that's going to keep it clean of yeast, keep it clean of bacteria and parasites.
And so you should then start to have a remission, or at least some of the fog in your brain clear.
Absolutely.
Some of the behavioral components start to clear up as a result of just removing those conditions of failure.
Brain fog is so immense with these kids with ADD and ADHD. It's just shutting them down. It's like literally trying to see through a fog. Mm-hmm. And when that clears up, because the mycotoxins produced by the yeast, by the fungus, those stop, because you're killing it, those mycotoxins can be eliminated. You can also take activated charcoal. Activated charcoal is it has a certain sized hole in it that will receive the mycotoxin and eliminate it out of your body. So activated charcoal with the structured silver, that's a great 1-2 punch.
Okay. Yeah, awesome. We'll wrap it up there, and we'll be covering some other subject matters a little bit more in depth in other videos.
Great.